Now I am going to talk about a situation that I have personally witnessed and I think you may have witnessed in some way. Today's topic will be about the dead, dull, and numb gaze of the narcissist. I don't know how much you have witnessed this situation, but I have experienced it especially intensely myself. Now, what is the narcissistic view? I can tell you the following. The narcissist's gaze is often different from normal people. The look in the narcissist's eyes usually seems empty and devoid of any emotion or warmth. Rather than seeing into your soul, the narcissist's gaze penetrates you directly, as if you don't exist. So when a narcissist looks into your eyes, it is not because he is so in love with you that he cannot take his gaze off you, but because he is looking for points of trust and points of weakness that he can use to gain control over you. It is always unsettling for people to see a piercingly intense stare in front of them, but never more unsettling than when it is accompanied by dark, dead eyes. Normally when we experience certain emotions, such as anger or grief, our pupils dilate, causing our eyes to appear much darker than normal. Something similar is often seen in the narcissist's gaze. The narcissistic gaze is so intense and penetrating that it draws you into the narcissist's world, causing you to wallow in a swamp of self-obsession and manipulation. And of course behind those piercing eyes is an insatiable need for dominance, control and admiration. A narcissist uses eye contact to seduce and create a sense of intimacy, intimidate or control. Here he also looks into the eyes of his victims, looking for clues or signs of submission and admiration. Whatever the intention behind the narcissist's gaze, it has a disturbing psychological effect on the recipient. Now let's elaborate a little more on this issue with some subheadings. The narcissist's gaze seeks vulnerability. In many cases, you can see the narcissist's eyes darken long before the anger becomes apparent. You may notice that he or she is looking at you with even more intensity than usual, as if searching for something you are hiding deep inside. This is the first stage of narcissistic anger, and although it is intended to make you feel uncomfortable and uneasy, it is only the beginning of the process. And then, of course, there's the darkening gaze. As this person's anger increases, the narcissist's eyes become darker. As the pupil size increases, the gaze becomes more and more empty and lifeless. This can even be very frightening. Such dull, dead eyes are often associated with evil. At this stage, the narcissist will appear to be looking at you without expressing anything and without registering any emotion. This gaze becomes more intense as the feeling of anger increases, and the narcissist's eyes can turn completely into the eyes of a dead person. Their gaze becomes cold and hard and sends a clear message: you are nothing to me. He also has a look that he wears to hide himself, to hide his shame and weakness. The narcissist also uses this empty expression to mask parts of his personality that he perceives as shameful or that may indicate failure or weakness. He may feel that he has lost control over you, or he may be afraid that you will reveal his inner truth, which is full of feelings of emptiness, loneliness and worthlessness. When the narcissist's anger finally gets the better of him, you are subjected to the worst narcissistic gaze. And then there is the predatory gaze of the narcissist. You may only catch a glimpse of a narcissist's predatory gaze for a brief moment, but you never forget how uncomfortable it makes you feel. Likewise, the narcissist's eyes are completely cold and empty, with none of the warmth or intimacy you usually get from prolonged eye contact. You will see the narcissist looking at you as if they are about to attack you, like a shark's eyes darkening just before it attacks its prey. If someone looks at you with a predatory stare, it is usually replaced by a warm smile as soon as they realize you are looking at them. This makes the lifeless stare even more disturbing, and you may wonder if you saw it or if it was a figment of your imagination. The narcissist usually pretends that the predatory look never happened. So why does the narcissist stare? The narcissist uses every tool at their disposal, including eye contact, to create a perfect picture of themselves and mask their manipulative ways. At the beginning of a relationship, a narcissist will use their eyes liberally to create a sense of intimacy and sexual arousal. Research shows that prolonged eye contact stimulates the nervous system to release oxytocin and phenylethylamine. These chemicals are associated with our feelings of long-term attachment and attraction. As a result, the narcissist creates a false sense of closeness and security through prolonged eye contact, while presenting himself as the perfect partner with whom such feelings can be shared. This is the beginning of manipulation. Once the narcissist has attracted you, he will use a different kind of gaze to make you feel nervous. He wants your eyes to see only him and he wants you to look at him loyally, so he tries to provoke this reaction by looking at you. If he manages to get your attention this way, he will continue to use eye contact to analyze your feelings and use them against you. How the narcissist's eyes manipulate you. As I mentioned earlier, prolonged eye contact evokes intimacy and a sense of attraction. The narcissist uses this trick to draw you into his narrative, creating a false sense of intimacy and security, encouraging you to let your guard down. Once he has won you over, the narcissist can continue to use his gaze to make you uneasy, so that you want to return to him, seeking the sense of security he promised you before, the security he provided you with. At this point, the narcissist deliberately withdraws, leaving you with empty eyes that chill you to the bone. The purpose of this is both to test you and to torture you. In other words, he wants to find something in you that he can criticize. He is looking for suspicious changes that he can potentially interrogate you about, destroying the previous self-conscious intimacy, making you feel rejected. So you are left in need of getting back in his good graces, in other words, of regaining your first self. This is a micromanipulation to make sure that the narcissist is providing the narcissistic resource he needs to control you and to fight feelings of inadequacy. Finally, how do you recognize narcissistic gaze? The narcissistic stare can take many forms, from love bombing to cold and calculating, but how do you know when you're looking into the eyes of a narcissist? One of the things you can look out for here is the duration of the stare. Most people can only maintain eye contact for a few seconds or so, but a narcissist has such an inflated sense of self-importance that he or she will not hesitate to keep their gaze on you for quite a while. And as I said, normal people reflexively can no longer keep their gaze on someone for a long time. But the narcissist's gaze is deliberately manipulative and involves making eye contact for quite long periods of time. This is the sign that distinguishes them from normal people. You feel really uncomfortable at that moment, like your private space has been invaded. He does this for a reason, he knows how uncomfortable it is. The narcissist is the expert manipulator and uses prolonged eye contact to make you feel uncomfortable and vulnerable. He needs you to be powerless so that he can control you and reinforce his feelings of superiority. Any gaze that frightens or intimidates you is likely to be the narcissist's gaze. Even if you cannot fully discern the motivation or intention behind the gaze here, you should still trust your instincts, and if your instinct is to be afraid, there is probably a good reason for it.